All right, we're back. It's 2016 Healthy, Inspiring, Positive Living Time. That's Hip Living. We're going to be getting into some things. This segment of Hip Living, we're going to be talking about health and wellness, of course, but we're also going to do a little bit talking about motivation, inspiration here on Hip Living. All right, everyone, it's Friday, 6 p.m., March the 24th, Richmond, Virginia, live here at Comcast Studio, and this is Hip Living. And if you caught me around July 2015, Hip Living is all about healthy, inspiring, positive living. And during those segments around July, I focused a whole lot on health and wellness, the body, working out, staying fit, staying well, touched on some nutrition. But I decided to do something just a little bit different. But don't get me wrong, we're still going to be focusing on the mind, body, and soul. We're going to definitely be focusing more on the mind, body, and soul. And to really kick off things this year, dealing with some inspiration and positive living, I have a special guest. You probably know him as a famous guy. You didn't think I knew him, did you? Talking about Mr. Russell Simmons. That's right. I'm not lying. Check him out. I got Russell Simmons up here, Richmond, Virginia. Now y'all know I'm lying. Some of y'all might know this gentleman right here, this brother. He is the one and only Mr. Dwayne Bennett. Welcome, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Glad to be here, man. I'm glad to be here.
And as I said, and for you out there in the viewing audience, I wanted to emphasize definitely some inspiration and some positive living. Because the body, yes, we want to keep the body in shape. We want to stay in shape. We also want to keep the mind right. And in order to get there, it's good to have people that can empower you, that can inspire you and motivate you. And we're all familiar with that. Those individuals, we call them mentors. So the gentleman that I have on today's program, he's an expert. He's very passionate. That's his purpose. That's his calling, to do mentorship. But he also does motivational speaking. So we're going to touch on that in the second break, in the second half of the show. But we're going to get right to it, and we're going to talk about that most important thing called mentoring. So without any further ado, here's Mr. Dwayne Bennett to talk about his company and what he does in the way of mentoring. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now as far as your company.
Okay, my company is called Yes to Success, and I have two divisions. I have one division, the youth division, that focuses on our mentoring and helping youth in our community service. Right. I have the other division that focuses on motivational speaking, coaching, and training. And in terms of the mentor area, I go around the state of Virginia and I train individuals, college students, high school students, adults, corporate America on the best practices in mentorship. So that's one of my specialties. And I do this with the #1 nonprofit organization in the state of Virginia called the Virginia Mentoring Partnership. So I do most of my mentoring through that, and I also do some other youth stuff directly through my company.
Okay, so what I'm getting is that you basically cover the gamut of mentoring. You're not only focusing on the young, but the not so young.
Right.
And what's entailed in part of that is training people to mentor. And I want to get in that a little bit real quick because I know even for myself and a lot of us who want to do mentoring.
Right.
We have all the best intentions.
Right.
But like in anything, it's good to be trained in it.
Right.
To get some training.
That's
you
right.
know, you're getting into something like I said, you got all the best intentions, but it's good to have somebody to teach you. You want to touch on that a little bit, to train just a little bit?
Yeah, and this is the key. You can be a mentor from adult to adult. And a lot of times they will call that from a mentor to a protege.
Okay.
But then when we're talking about usually from adult to a young person, then we're talking about a mentor to a mentee. The principles are the same, but in terms of delivery method of the content, then we'll deal with our youth and the youth mind and those principles. And then we're working with adults or adult learners. That's a total different way to train. So in terms of our youth, then when we're working with our youth training, usually have an adult. You want to train that adult on the best practices of mentorship and working with young people. So then one of the biggest segments in there, how do we communicate with young people? How do we work with young people? What's the issues concerning young people? And then really give a kind of background as to the whole mentorship area.
Okay. Now, usually, what are some of the things that you look for in a mentor, particularly when you talk about mentoring young people? Is there a particular type? Like, for example, if you're trying to pair people together, like I said, you might have someone here, you understand what I'm saying? It's like a partnership, it's like a relationship. Take us a little bit into that process of when you're trying to pair somebody, particularly when young people, because you got to be sensitive when it comes to the young people.
Right. And the thing with that is, that area of mentoring is called matching. You call mentor matching. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the best person or the best adult out of a pool of adults that are matched well out of this pool of young people. So what usually happens is you have an organization and they bring in mentors. So we'll say for instance, it's an all-male organization. So our suggested best practice is if you have an all-male organization to match all males with all young men. So that'd be the first way we match. We match in male to male. We match it by gender. Then we may look at the characteristics of the young man and say, hey, this young man has an interest, we'll say, in sports. He wants to go to college. And he also wants to say he wants to just do better in school. So then we'll look at the characteristics of the male and say, which one of these older gentlemen is good in college, has went to high school, has graduated from college. Which one also know a little bit about sports, and what young gentleman has a time to spend the time that he needs with this particular young man. So we try to do a match based on some of those things. But the other thing is it also could be based on personality. You may have a loquacious young man and you really want to have a loquacious older man, so they can be talkative, you can understand the process, you can work with them. So that can be based on personality. It could be based on ethnicity. If we're looking at ethnicity, we may look at Italian American to Italian American, or African American to African American. That's just one of the criteria. So we try to look at what's the major characteristics that are inherent to the older gentleman or the older person, and what's the inherent characteristics of the younger person, and then we try to match those together. It's called mentor matching.
So I noticed one time when I was doing some research into mentoring, they have this thing where you can either do groups or you can do one-on-ones. And so how do you set that up?
Well, it depends on the population. You mentioned, usually when people talk about mentoring, what they're looking at is the one-on-one mentoring model. That's one person, one older adult to one younger adult. We have that model. Then we talk about the group mentoring. In those situations, you may have an organization that wants to mentor our young people, but say you have 15 young people and only 3 adults. So that'll be group mentoring. So probably one adult may have 5 young people. And then we're really doing some cutting edge things now in terms of e-learning. We can have an older person that's on. You can get them on Skype with a younger person on Skype, and you can spend some time with them that way. So it's different models of mentoring based on the organizations, based on the needs, and based on the number. So you're 100% on point in terms of there's different ways to look at mentoring.
And it's such a big demand for that. I mean, it really is. And when you get out there and you think about it, even when you look within your family sometimes, and you realize, I mean, even parents.
That's right.
Because I know how important it is when we talk about fatherhood. No doubt about that. Don't minimize the importance of having a father in the household. But what I'm noticing even with that, is that safety net. Having that extra mentor, that support system there.
Yeah.
Do you run into that sometimes? Maybe, you know, you got, even if it's a 2-parent household, they're saying, you know, my son or my daughter, can you?
This is the thing, and it's counterintuitive.
Okay.
Sometimes people will think that when you bring a mentor into a family relationship, that's going to hurt the family structure because they think, okay, you're taking away some duties or some wisdom from the father or the mother.
Right.
But what the statistics bear out is this. A young person that has a mentor, even within the family, it strengthens the family relationships, because what happens is the mentor is teaching the mentor communication. Okay. They're teaching the mentor some skills that the family may not have. Right. How to handle finances, how to handle conflict.
Right.
So then the mentee takes that information back home and he shares it with the adult. He may share it with his mother. He may share it with his father, and then strengthens the family bond. So the thing in terms of who needs a mentor, everyone could use the services of a mentor. It's not, and it's this misnomer that young people that have mentors, they have some problems, they have challenges. That's not the case. You could have a high-performing, a high-striving young person, we'll just use grades, a 10th grader that's making all B's. Well, there's room for success to go to A's, and his mentor can come in there and help him take him to the next level. Okay. So I'm glad you asked that question, so we can kind of dispel that myth, is that mentors are only for young people. Right. And if I can take an opportunity just to really kind of give an overall definition, if you will, a view of mentoring. Right. And mentoring is this: it's the structured and trusting a relationship that brings together an older person to a younger person who encourages and supports that young person. Here we go, to bring out the competence and the character of the mentee. Right. So you got a older person. They're caring. Right. They're there to support. Right. They're there to encourage, and they're there to guide. Right. What I call and go to the 2 C's, the competence, and the competence could be things in the area of school, you know, math, reading, those competencies, and the character, and we know the character, good citizenship, integrity, doing the right things, making right choices. So when you look at the definition, it doesn't have anything to do with any station, any color, whether the person is doing good or not good, whether or not they have a family, a mother or father in the home. It's just the concept of guiding, encouraging, taking this person to the next level.
Because really, what I'm thinking about too is this whole thing, you know, people talk about the village. Yeah. And the whole sense of community.
That's right.
You follow me? Because you got to have that support system there. And I guess that's one of the benefits of when you said mentor. Yes. You understand? Because that sense of community. You got a family and everything, mother, father, whatever, it's regardless of the characteristics of the family, you have that sense of community there. Right. You know, you have that support system. And sometimes not only that, I think it's a case, and we've experienced this in our own life coming up. You're not always as close to your parents as your parents would like you to be. Even if they say to you, you can tell me anything. Yeah, because look, you don't think your parents got any sense. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, let's be real. You say that, they tell you that, and even I catch myself. Yeah, you say that, but you know it's how you gonna react to it. Yeah, you know, because a loving parent and your kids love you, they don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to, you know, like you judging them. Right. Even though in a way you're not, but you dad. Right. So with the mentor. Sometimes it's that thing where they can kind of open up a little more, you know, like with our coaches or whatever. Exactly. You know? And so I guess that's part of the point that I was trying to make, you know, with the mentorship and everything. I want to go somewhere else a little bit with this mentorship thing too, because we want to keep it 100. Right. We're having some issues with the criminal justice system. Right. We got juvenile justice. Right. How does that fit into it? Because I was thinking about something when you talk about a mentor. Right. And somebody, let's face it, they got a felon. You know, they got some charges. But you got a child, you got a kid. You got somebody, they really need somebody that can really get in there and really like, look, you follow me? Yeah. You got all of this over here, that's all good, but this is somebody that can really, how does that work when you're dealing with someone who may be an ex-felon or someone who's lived a lifestyle or so on, but they got that, how does that work?
It works like this. First of all, I advocate for anyone before you become a mentor to have training. Okay. Because training is going to teach you the best practices of working with this young person. Right. Mentoring is more of a science then it's an art. And when I say that, is most of the time, people have this view of mentoring is I can just